On this week's Political Figure episode, we've got what you'd get if you make a shitty PE teacher with a shitty PE teacher's name a senator. Tommy Tuberville. Thomas Hawley Tuberville was born September 18th, 1954 in Camden, Arkansas, which is a state I'm not entirely sure actually exists. I know Bill Clinton came from there, and I'm pretty sure I've driven through it. It's like one of those states nobody can pick out on a map, and when you try to picture it, you just see Kansas or Nebraska or some shit, except it's southern somehow too. You never hear about it either when you talk about the Civil War and the Confederacy, except it was apparently part of the Confederacy and fought in the Civil War. Who knew? This is my new conspiracy theory. Arkansas, like birds, is not real. And I'm very sorry to all the imaginary people from Arkansas I offended with that bit. Anyway, Tuberville graduated from Harmony Grove High School in 1972 and went to Southern State College, which is now Southern Arkansas University. Here, Tommy continued making football his entire personality by playing as a safety for the Southern State Mule Riders. You heard that right. The team's name is the Mule Riders. All one word, which I think is just more evidence in my conspiracy theory that this is not a real place. And then he graduated in 1976 with a bachelor's degree in PE. You seriously can't make this shit up. Dude's a sitting United States senator. He has a degree in making kids run laps while he watches from a golf cart. He then got a job coaching high school football because PE teacher, then ended up being an assistant coach for Arkansas State, and then went and did some coaching at the University of Miami, because we gotta sprinkle some Florida in there. He helped coach at Texas A&M for a season before getting his first head coaching job at the University of Mississippi in 1994. Well, at Ole Miss, the Tubster tried to ban fans waving Confederate flags in the stands. Turns out not because he found the symbol of hate offensive, but apparently a bunch of people waving around the symbol of slavery was making it hard to recruit people who, can run fast. Turns out little Tubby was pretty good at coaching football, and Ole Miss was doing pretty good, and at the end of the 1998 season, they said, would you ever consider leaving Ole Miss for another college? Because, you're becoming a hot commodity. And he said, the only way I'll leave this school is in a pine box. Less than a week later, he announced he had taken a coaching job at Auburn. Definitely the type of loyalty, honesty, and conviction you like to see in a guy. He coached at Auburn for a little while, and then he ditched them to go to Texas Tech, and then he ditched Texas Tech for Cincinnati. So far we've got Arkansas, Florida, Mississippi, Alabama, Texas, and Ohio. Doing great on the cultural diversity front. He coached in Ohio for a little while, and then apparently he started to suck, at least comparatively to how good he used to be. So he resigned and started focusing all of his efforts on the TS Capital Wealth Management partnership he'd gotten himself into around 2008. Because, a football coach with a PE degree is who you want managing your capital. Then he and his partner at TS Capital got sued in 2012 for defrauding investors of over $1.5 million. In 2013, his partner was indicted and sentenced to 10 years in prison for fraud. But Tommy Tuberville was like, I had no idea what was going on. I'm a victim too. I was also defrauded. And the legal system apparently believed his story, and he ended up with a settlement out of the deal. After not defrauding people through capital management, he went and decided he was gonna not defraud people through charity now. And he started the Tommy Tuberville Foundation, where he raised a bunch of money to help veterans, and then used all of that money to not help veterans. In the first 5 years of operation, the foundation raised close to $300,000 and spent a whopping $50,000 on actual charitable donations. The foundation finally went defunct as of 2021 and is currently under audit. In 2020, Tommy Tube Steak moved back to Alabama to run for Senate. He ran in the Republican primary against Jeff Sessions on the platform that Jeff Sessions was a little bitch for not sucking Donald Trump off hard enough. No joke. He said because Jeff Sessions did the right thing and recused himself from the investigation on election interference in 2016. He called him slime who wasn't man enough to stand by Donald Trump when things got tough. Speaking of which, how has the GOP not made Tammy Wynette's Stand By Your Man their official theme song yet? But if you love him, you'll forgive him even though he's hard to understand. Seriously, if you don't know the song, go just read the lyrics. It's old country. You don't have to listen to it if you don't want, but go read the lyrics and tell me that it does not perfectly describe the entire GOP platform, complete with being sung in misogynistic gender tones of a bygone era. To the letter, just tell me I'm wrong. Anyway, after Tommy the Tumor got done gargling, Trump readily endorsed him, and he went on to win the nomination and the seat. In an interview shortly after the election, he decided to show everybody that he was fit to be a senator by displaying his in-depth grasp of U.S. history and civics that he learned in PE school, saying things like, we fought World War II to free Europe from socialism, because that's what words mean to him. And that the three branches of government are the House, the Senate, and the executive. A sitting U.S. senator who is in the Senate thinks that the Senate is an entire branch of government. I guess that's why you don't make Coach Steve the social studies teacher. The very first thing he did while he was in office was tried to stop the certification of the presidential election twice. Not to mention he went off and played in the stop the election side quests of Pennsylvania and Arizona. All the while, the irony was lost on him that he was claiming that the election that he won was illegitimate. Because, you know, there was the same federal election that he was on the ballots for. Anyway, instead of doing his job, he immediately started going to Trump rallies, and then Trump personally called him via Mike Lee's cell phone on January 6th because Trump can't operate a cell phone, apparently. Trump called Utah Senator Mike Lee thinking it was Tommy Tuberville's phone number, and then Mike Lee just forwarded the phone call to Tommy. Just the picture of free world-leading competence. He voted against a J6 investigation, you know, all the greatest hits. From here on out, everything's pretty much just a copy-paste of what you'd expect it to be. Let's see, Tommy Tupperware voted against the COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act, voted against the Defense of Marriage Act, because, you know, you can't like the gays, has voted against everything trans. When he was asked about his thoughts on white nationalists joining the military, he's like, I don't call them white nationalists, I call them American. And they're like, so just to clarify, you've got no problem with racist assholes. And he's like, being a white nationalist doesn't just inherently mean you're racist. Real words, that man said. Granted, he got some backlash and walked back the comment, but, Moving on, not only did he vocally support overturning Roe v. Wade, he single-handedly held the entire U.S. military and our national security hostage to throw a temper tantrum over their policies on abortion. He managed to block the confirmation of over 300 generals, admirals, all of the U.S. military's top brass. He was responsible for making the Marine Corps go without leadership for the first time in over 2 centuries. This is a man who claims to love the U.S. military and love our veterans and love America, and I do not think that it can be overstated how much danger he put American service members and America as a whole in to throw this toddler temper tantrum. Honestly, it's damn near treason. It should have been treated that way. If nothing else, a dereliction of duty. In fact, retired Air Force General and former director of the CIA, Michael Hayden, responded to a question about whether or not Tuberville should be removed from his committee assignments for this. He said, how about removing him from the human race? Tuberville cried like a little bitch to the Capitol Police that Hayden had called for his assassination, and Hayden responded by saying, nah, I just don't think you should be considered a member of the human race. And if all of that wasn't enough, he's also violated the Stock Act, which is an act that says, you know, elected representatives shouldn't be doing insider trading 132 times in 2021 alone. That's a lot of crime in a year. But, you know, there's no consequences when you're a rich white dude, apparently. And also, despite being an Alabama senator, he lives in Florida, which is against the Constitution, but also not, I guess. The United States Constitution requires a senator to live in the state that they're elected in, but doesn't apparently give... Oh, I didn't realize my knuckles were bleeding that bad. Doesn't give a specified length of time they need to live in the state, and the Alabama Constitution only requires them to live in the state for 1 day to run for office. So Alabama has a senator from Florida, I guess, because nothing matters anymore. And I am cold and bleeding, so I'm gonna go inside. Roll Tide.